morning and welcome on our sunrise safari live drive from the middle of the African bush. My name is Jamie and this morning I have VM on camera with me and we're doing a minor detour to try and get round the roadblock that the elephants very kindly left in the road for us. It's the joys of a live drive. You can't plan and you never know what to expect. Because it is live, it means that you can send through your questions, everybody duck, on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Sorry, VM. And we are coming to you live from Djuma, Aubrey's Road to be exact, if you're wondering where the roadblock is, for those of you familiar with our geography. But from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves, oh my goodness, phew, we made it, in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. Gather, there are elephants here, there are also lions and hippo and buffalo and all sorts of wonderful creatures. So let us go and see what the morning has in store for us. Obviously, for those of you who are our regular viewers, you will know that there was no sunset drive yesterday afternoon, and we do thank you for your patience during the time of rehearsals. Just to fill you in on what happened, I encountered the Nkuhumas. Very big thank you to the Zumi who helped us out with finding those. We encountered the Nkuhumas, all 8 cubs and 4 lionesses minus Amber Eyes, who presumably is off mating somewhere. And they were very clearly hungry. The lionesses were restless up and down. They kept getting up, leaving the cubs behind and then coming back to fetch the cubs. And a massive herd of buffalo came wandering through from Buffelshoek just towards the end of our rehearsal. I'm thinking that the Nkuhumas will have definitely made a beeline for a particular herd. So while I'm going to check the northern boundary, Brent has got a view of what looks to be a spectacular sunrise. Go and have a look.
What a spectacular sunrise this morning. Look at that. Now, it's still quite chilly, but this cloud bank is making for some really impressive skies. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Now, it is chilly, as I said, and hopefully that means the big cats are going to be on the move. My name is Brent, and of course on camera with me is the other half of the killer bees and his thumb. So Brian, you there? And the thumb, what is the thumb?
An eye patch.
It's an eye patch. Brian injured his eye last night, so he wishes he had an eye patch like his thumb. Now remember, this is live, and you can ask us questions, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or questions@wildearth.tv. Now the sun is popping. Here we go. Look at that. Now all we want to hear is the roar of the lion, or the roar of the leopard, or the snort of an alarm call. Our plan is we're going to go check down south around Treehouse Dam and Gowrie Main. Hopefully Queen Karula and the cubs have made their way back to the north. Now I'm hoping that sun climbs high and fast to warm us up. But we're going to keep on our adventures, see if we can find anything as we head towards the south. Now, while we keep searching for the big cats of Djuma, Jamie's found the biggest creature on Djuma.
Biggest, and in my case, definitely one of my favorite creatures to start off a morning safari. A large lone bull. Actually, I say large, he's actually quite a young bull, all on his own, munching away peacefully. And just looking at him, you can see easily from his body language that this is a gentleman. Nice, polite young elephant bull. He didn't even so much as raise his head when we repositioned the vehicle to get a slightly better view. Amazingly intelligent creatures. They're always fascinating to watch, just in terms of their interaction with each other and the world around them. And in this case, he is absolutely annihilating a bush willow tree just next to an old hyena den. I was, of course, doing my usual standard cursory checks of the different hyena dens of the area, and of course, on Aubrey's Road, I couldn't help but stop to check the old den. But unfortunately, no hyenas just yet. Our hyena clan, despite many hours spent with them, have moved to the north of where we are. Hello, boy. Good morning. I wonder if he is appreciating the drop in temperature that we've been experiencing. It's a chilly morning this morning. 12 degrees centigrade, which is 54 in Fahrenheit. Unusually cold. But I'm sure for our ellies, it's definitely something that they enjoy, not having to worry about being too hot. Oh, is that a nice scratch, boy? Is that branch just the perfect height to get to those itches on the top of your head? When you don't have hands, and a trunk won't really do, a good scratch behind the ears from a bush willow tree is the perfect approach. There's something so incredible about stopping and just looking into their eyes. Oh, speak of the devil, I can hear hyenas calling from right inside this block. Surely not. I love that sound. It's one of the best sounds to enjoy. It's one of my favorite sounds of the bush. Right in the direction of that hyena den. I didn't see any tracks. Might be a little bit further than I think just because of the cold morning, but who knows? Ah, silence. Once again. I will go and check the other hyena den just in case. Maybe we'll get lucky. In the meantime, we've already started off with a lucky start to encounter this bull. He's giving us these incredibly spectacular views from the top of his head down to his incredible feet. An elephant's foot is possibly one of the most amazing physical adaptations of any creature out here. And despite appearances, they walk right on the top of their tiptoes with a spongy, weight-absorbing or sort of spreading cushion that supports the bones. Look at those massive toenails. That lure of that hyena call is almost irresistible. Trying to just work out exactly where they are. Now, of course, we can learn so much about our elephants just by observing their body language. And Bill, good morning to you and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. You've noticed that baby elephants do a back kick when they play, and you're wondering if adult elephants do the same thing. And the answer is not necessarily no. I haven't really seen them regularly do it, although you can see this elephant was resting his weight for one moment there. There you go. Doing an arabesque for us all. And now tucking his one foot neatly behind the other, so just resting the weight. Bill, I don't know what the reason is behind calves doing that. I think they're just playing. I do know what you mean, though. I think it's playing, learning the coordination, stretching out, doing what children do. And sort of children generally have a range of motion that perhaps adults don't tend to imitate. And elephants are probably the same, although they are remarkably agile creatures. But I think it's just the playful nature of elephant calves. They're so intelligent and they've got so much learning to do. Once they mature, then sadly the sort of playfulness disappears. You don't really, apart from adult bulls like this one who often spar with each other, you don't really see adult elephants playing, do you? At least not in a way that we would recognize as playfulness. The young males do actually keep themselves entertained by sparring with each other, but it's that kind of play that has a very important purpose, because they're learning fighting skills, stuff that they may need, or skills that they may need in the future when it comes time to compete for a mate. Now, this young boy is not quite at that point just yet. In fact, he's probably only in the last few years left the safety of his herd, which is why it's quite remarkable that he is as trusting of us as he has been, and as relaxed as he is. Generally, you'll find with the younger males, they can be quite skittish, quite nervous of strange things when they're all on their own like this. But he seems to be perfectly comfortable with us. He's obviously learnt that human beings in vehicles are not a problem. Hello, boy. Yes, you are beautiful. I love these close-up images. Get to see the finest details, even the hair on the trunk and the lip is amazing. I don't want to push it with him. I don't want to try and get any closer. Hopefully he decides to start wondering, oh, shame, he's actually got an injury. I didn't see that at first. Is that an injury or a leaf? No, it's an injury. Ouch! Is it squashed up leaves, or is it squashed up leaves on an injury? I'm confused. What is happening there? It looks like a puncture wound that has gathered leaves, or perhaps a thorn or something hooked in there and it's still got the leaves attached. A little bit of moisture around it, but that could have been from leaves, I suppose. Maybe he brushed up against something. I can't quite work that one out. Maybe it is. Maybe he just brushed up against some leaves. Interesting. Right, I'm going to leave our Ellie bull. I'm going in search of those hyenas. I can't resist the lure of their call any longer. Let's go and see what other large creature Brent has found for you.
We had a sleeping herd of buffalo, and they've been sleeping for about 5 minutes. And a hyena started calling, and one sort of bumped the other, and they all got a fright and stood up in a great panic. Now, the buffalo are quite panicky at the moment, and due to the lions have been really focusing on them. Although I don't think the lions came this far. I thought I heard lions chasing buffalo early last night, but much further to the north in the area Jamie's checking at the moment. I think this is the same herd of buffalo that's been hanging around Zoe's, Philemon's, about 60 to 100 of them. There was a massive herd of buffalo yesterday coming from Bothelshoek, about 400 or so. When they started jumping up, I half hoped that there were lions behind them. I think they just gave themselves a fright. It could possibly be a segment of that big herd if the Nkuhumas managed to split them last night. Shame. The drought has been hard on the buffalo. But we've got to remember the ones that survive are carrying the strongest genetics. And it bodes well for the whole population of buffalo. And some of them are starting to lie down again. I think they're going to settle. And we're going to keep checking for leopard tracks or lion tracks. If we find any tracks of the lions heading in this direction, we'll be back here in a flash. And the sky is incredibly beautiful this morning. Now, excuse me, our hyena population has left us over the last while. And Morning Glory is wondering, is it because of the drought and the lack of prey? And will the rain bring the hyenas back? Morning Glory, it's actually that I wouldn't say that at all. If anything, the drought has increased the prey and increased their ease of catching the prey. As you can see, the Nkuhuma have been doing incredibly well, so have the leopards. Now, I think our hyenas have left us for a combination of reasons. I think pressure from the Elephant Plains clan and the fact that the Nkuhumas have basically set up on that northern section of Djuma where the hyena dens used to be. So I think the hyenas have moved the dens due to their safety, and also we have noticed a bit of pressure coming from the other clan. Maybe there's a vacuum of hyenas in the southern Manyeleti, and so they've moved in there. They still come into Djuma, but their dens are off Djuma. Now we're just going very slowly, making sure we don't miss any tracks. There's a herd of buffalo on Philemon's cut line, just to the north of Zoe's Junction. Now, we've noticed as the drought has gone on and on the lack of baby buffalo or calves. Now, James Richard was wondering, did I see any calves? I didn't. I saw one or two sub-adults, but no young calves. Now, what's happening is, even if the females are giving birth, you probably find because of the lack of food around for them, they're not able to produce milk, or even those calves will be stillborn. And that's the buffalo looking after themselves there. So in order for them to breed successfully, they have to survive. So you'll probably find only after a bit more rain, a bit more grass, the buffalo pick up a bit more condition, and we'll see them start giving birth to youngsters again. Okay, you can see they've been all around here last night. You can just see the road. You can see how there's just many buffalo tracks and buffalo pats. But no sign of lions just yet. And we're going to keep checking carefully down from here. We're going to head a bit more to the southeast, see if we can find any sign of Karula. Let's see what's happening up in the north with Jamie.
We've changed our direction, and I'm now racing across to see whether or not we can't catch up with this hyena that's been whooping. I've checked the den site that's a little bit further to the south on Aubrey's Road. No sign of them there, unfortunately. There's a little part of me that was really, not even secretly hoping, that was really hoping that they might have decided to return. And it seems as though I shouldn't get my hopes up on a regular basis, because they definitely haven't returned to that particular den. Now it becomes a game of where's that hyena and where was it calling. And I think it was somewhere around here. And let us keep a close eye out. The problem is they start to call and then they carry on moving, and trying to track down a hyena is actually harder than a leopard or a lion, I think. Trying to track down one individual hyena, unless you know where den sites are. They move so incredibly quickly, and they move constantly. They cover huge amounts of ground. Lions and leopards generally have a purpose. They're going to hunt something. Hyenas just kind of wander. And yet hunt as well. But they do cover far larger distances than leopards or lions. So tracking one down can be a tricky affair. Right. Do I think... Hopefully it calls again for us. That would really help to narrow it down. Let's just stop here for the moment, take in the view. Gives me an opportunity to just sit and listen. Come on, hyena. call for us one more time. Beautiful morning. No. Just the sounds of the scrub robins and drongos. Nothing. No hyena whoops any longer. Okay, let's go check Sydney's dam. Hopefully it's decided to go through there. That's my next guess. Although it is very hard to guess. Okay. Off we go! On the hunt for a spotted hyena. Not the way I thought my morning was going to go, but not something that I disagree with in any way. So if we were there, it sounded like it was right here. Right at the junction of Sandy Patch. Now we know that they are denning in a place called Manyaleti, which is to the north of our boundary. And actually to the north of Buffelshoek, which is to the north of our boundary. But it's not that far away from us, because the way that the properties are shaped, they almost come through at a wedge towards the gate. Which means there's quite a thin strip of Buffelshoek, and then Manyaleti is just a couple of kilometers away from there. Which means that they pop through onto Djuma pretty much every single night. Stop and have a look, see if these hornbills decide to do their display again for us. And while we do that, Debbie in Vancouver's question is actually connected to what these hornbills were doing, which is doing their call. Debbie wanted to know why I think that hyena was calling. Come on. No, that was... Ah. I had such a nice tie-in. Very typical hornbill flight. Flap, flap, close. Flap, flap, close. Awesome, well done, Vim. Very cool. Sorry, Debbie, I got distracted there. Couple of reasons. That woo is a contact call, and it's the way of the hyenas communicating to each other members of the clan, where they are, and at the same time saying to all other hyena clans, hey guys, this territory is occupied. And what's interesting about that is, obviously, hyenas have a wide range of different vocal sounds, and each one means something different. What's interesting about that particular one is it's very frequently made by the clan males, who of course sit right down at the bottom of the hierarchy. I'm sitting here, by the way, just in case it calls again, or pops through the side. They're right down at the bottom of the clan hierarchy, because they're males, and that's how spotted hyenas work. But they do play a very, very important role in maintaining the territory of a hyena clan, or at least a home range, which obviously extends far beyond just the den site and around the den site. It'll extend all the way, for a case of the Djuma clan, all the way down south. If the hyenas were calling for backup, which they do, so let's say they encountered the lions and decided, okay, I think it's worth trying to steal this kill, let's try and bring backup or reinforcements. That contact call is very, very similar, but slightly more frantic. It's and it's more repeated. It's not the lazy woo and then wait for ages, then woo. It's almost constant. It's woo, woo, interspersed with some very sort of giggling, excited sounds, which you would have heard before. So it's the more time you spend with them, if you know, of course you can, because they've deserted us. But the more time you spend with them, the more you can start to understand their individual calls. Right, one last ditched effort, otherwise we're going to move on and start heading along the northern boundary. And I plan on going to see Thandi this morning, if she's still there, which is very, very exciting. The last time I saw Thandi, we were waiting patiently for the cubs to come out. And then, of course, Brent went back there the next afternoon, and they did. They were. And I'm really hoping that today proves to be no different. We'll have to wait quite a long time to have an opportunity to go into that sighting. There's quite a few people who want to go see it. But Thandi is a leopard, for those of you who are wondering, with two gorgeous little, Brent says, male cubs. I'm dying to see them. I can't hold back any longer. Thandi is one of my favorite. Now, Nadia in New Zealand, welcome to the Sunrise Safari. You wanting to know about Thandi and her cubs, and you wanted to know if she's been reunited with them. was listening to the Game Drive channel. It didn't seem as though she was with her cubs yesterday afternoon. That in itself is not that unusual. Those cubs are still very, very young. They are, and she's probably actually taking them. She's got 3 impala kills, not 2, 3 impala kills. So she's probably taken them each and every time that she'll bring them out. There's a crow. Sorry, Viam, that was on the fly. It's a crow. For those of you who are building up your bird lists, that's one that we don't often see here. My hair does not want to do what it's told today. So, she hadn't been reunited with her cubs, but it's nothing too serious to worry about. It's pretty standard behavior for a mother with young cubs, and probably very clever behavior. With 3 impala kills, she knows that the hyenas are going to come lurking. And with the cubs being so young, I think she'd rather just play it better safe than sorry. Which is an entirely sensible approach. Sorry, that was a bit disjointed with that crow. Just by the way, that's a bird that we often see if we go outside of the reserves, but we hardly ever get to see inside of the reserve. I think that's the 3rd time I've ever seen them on Nkuhuma. That's something else we can aim for. Unusual birds. Cuckoos, perhaps, this morning. But for our new viewers, we always encourage everybody to keep a bird list, a checklist, just a checklist of all of the different birds that you can see. Right, I think my signal's actually going to disappear as we go towards Sydney's Dam, so why don't you jump on back with Brent and find out what he's up to.
Well, we're still going very slowly. Combination of not wanting to miss tracks and not wanting to freeze. This cold snap has taken us by surprise. I mean, it feels like we're back in winter. I can remember this time last year in October. We definitely weren't under blankets. We would have been, what is the polite way? We would have been glowing profusely. I think our average morning starting temperature must have been 18 to 20 degrees Celsius in October last year. Now we're closer to 10. Now, the sun is starting to get higher in the sky, and I'm hoping it is going to warm us. We might have to play the other primate game a little later. Now, in the early winter's morning, as the sun peaks up at the tips of the trees, there's often vervet monkeys to be seen sitting like this, trying to warm up in the early morning. I think we might play the vervet monkey game when the sun's a bit higher. Checking at the moment all Karula, sort of Karula hotspots. We find her tracks or find her regularly. So we've come and we've checked around Treehouse Waterhole, and we're now heading towards the southern boundary, see if there's a sign of her around there. But while we're going, there's always lots to look for. I've been flying. And I've been waiting to have a sunrise safari in some good light, and I think we're going to try find you some, as I stop, try find you some of the most spectacularly beautiful birds we get out here, which are the sunbirds. I can hear one. Now we've got lots of different trees in flower. We'll start off with a helmet shrike on the base, hanging on that hanging branch there. Where'd he go? Sorry, a bit to the left. There he is. Oh, if he goes, white-crowned shrikes. And we can hear a little chin spot batters calling. And even the birds seem to be a bit slow this morning in the cold. have to find a flowering, weeping booby, because I think there's going to be lots of different sunbirds on that. Okay, no, it was a hyena. A very warm welcome to a new viewer, Jay Copeland. And Jay would like to know if we've ever done a bit on the technology it takes to do a live broadcast. Now, Jay, I think if you go to our Final Control, might have to correct me on this, our Facebook page, I think there could be a buy. Affirmative. If you go to our, there we go, Final Control. If you go to our Facebook page, which is Safari Live, and have a look in the videos, there's a couple of little ones on the technology. I think look at the first Cheetah Plains one, and you will see us erect a mast that we broadcast from, and there's some stuff about the other technology, rovers, drones, all that type of stuff. So just have a look through the videos on our Facebook page, Jay, and that should help you out to understand the technology, because Brian and I, we don't. I can tell you that a thingamajig goes from the antenna behind me to a bigger antenna, and then it zigzags or does something to Final Control, and then it bounces, I think, to Dubai or to London, and that's about where my knowledge ends. Okay, so, what's that? Let's just go look at that one track over there. I don't think it's a leopard track, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. It's not. Oh, there's one more up there. Nope. Now, so far you've met Jamie and myself as we scour the African bushveld from the game drive cars. Of course, we've also got Steph, who's getting some exercise this morning.
Good morning, yes, and we finally managed to get out after a bit of a jumpy start this morning, getting this backpack going. I think she got a bit cold last night and she was a bit temperamental. But I'm Stef Winterboer and we have got Jandre on camera today, and I just want to say good morning. What a fantastic morning it is here today. I must be honest with you, we're just on quarantine clearing still this morning, and not a breath of air after the last couple of days of near, I don't know, for me it felt like gale force winds at least, but today's very calm. We have got this funny band of cloud, patchy cloud that's come in. I'm sure you've seen it already from either Jamie or Brent, to be honest. But I don't quite know what it means. We'll see. It's sort of coming in from the south and from the west. We normally get our rain all from the southeast, so that's basically where we get our rain from. That's our general rain, and then we get huge storms that come in from the north. So when we've got big rain clouds coming in from the north, generally heralds, we don't get too much hail down here, but massive amounts of rain. We're talking about this much rain in sort of a week's time when we get these big tropical cyclones blowing in. They haven't heralded any of those sort of things for this season, but we're looking forward to it. Okay. All right, Jandre is busy walking backwards now towards this tree, which I was thinking about letting him get himself tied up in before, before warning him there, but no. All right, what's our plan for today? We are now heading towards the Mawati. I want to cross the Mawati round about the Wahlberg's Eagle's Nest, and I'd like to go up into that block behind Or on Central Road, basically, heading towards Drakensberg. That's where I want to go. There's a few drainage lines inside there. Nice thick bush. I feel like walking underneath a canopy today. That's what I feel like doing. So we are going to be walking across quarantine and walking across the Mawati. I'm sure we'll catch up in the next couple of minutes, and we are going to put you through to Jamie with an update, I think.
Look at how incredible this is. This is a truly... Oh, there's two! This is such an incredible sight. I have never ever seen this before. They're baby bronze-winged coursers. Oh, this is such magic. Oh my word. There's actually 3 of them wandering about. There goes one of the adults about to pop on. 1, 2, 3. Hello. Oh, too sweet for words. I've never ever seen a baby bronze-winged courser. This is truly special. Now these can't be more than less than a couple of days old. Ah, look how disproportionate they look. They look ridiculous. Very well spotted to Viam, who actually saw them. Tuk, 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 tuk. Wow. Really, truly incredible. Perfectly camouflaged. Oh, here goes number 3. This is incredible. This is truly a first for me. There goes one of the adults dashing away. I'm going to try and reposition. I don't want to scare them too much, so I don't want to make too much noise or too much movement. So actually, let's just stay here and let them run. Oh, isn't that incredible? Only a couple of days old, born precocial, in other words, up and about and ready to run, not born naked and blind, as the way of a lot of passerine birds. These are ground-dwelling birds, and as a result, the chicks have to be ready to go. There's Mum, or Dad. Oh, look at that! Quick, everybody, hide away. Oh, wow. And they are... Oh, no, come on, guys, budge up. Can't fit under there. Everybody move up. Who would have guessed? Did you know that bronze-winged coursers wrap their babies under their wings? Because I didn't. I would have guessed, I suppose. And their mom settles down on top of them. Or Dad. Both Mom and Dad play a role in raising the little ones. Perfectly hidden. What an amazing defense. Look at that. You'd never know that they were there. That goes down as one of the coolest bronze-winged sightings I have ever had. So it's a bronze-winged courser. It's a nocturnal bird species. I'm going to try for one more reposition. I'm going to try and remember where they are now because they've completely vanished from my point of view. That has put such a big smile on my face. Spring is here. Baby birds everywhere. Let's see. Where were they? I can't even see them anymore. You got him. Oh, a little bit further. There we go. Well done, little courser. What an incredible sight to see. You can see that it's a nocturnal bird, massive, massive eyes, and they obviously spend their days hiding away and sleeping in some dense vegetation. And I'm so impressed by the parenting skills. If we'd driven past this bird now, we would never ever have known that there were babies there. And all 3 of them are safely tucked under her wings. Totally different colour to the adults, as you see, with that sort of a black and white mottling, and brown, which makes for a perfect camouflage. And it's the one thing that birds do very, very well, parenting. Especially since the fathers also play a role, which is relatively rare in the mammal kingdom. But for birds, it's probably the status quo for most of them. Dad and often even a previous offspring will help out with the raising of the chicks. And it just feels as though we've got so many different baby birds about to emerge. The Wahlbergs are nesting, that crested barbet nest, and now little baby bronze-winged coursers. Now that is a truly, truly special sighting. As I said, that is the first time I have ever seen a baby bronze-winged courser, and there were 3 of them. Very exciting. Well, it seems as though the birds are out and about this morning. Let's see which one Brent has found for you.
And we're talking about different creatures basking in the morning sun, and that's exactly what this dark morph Wahlberg's eagle is doing. Sitting high up in a massive leadwood tree and enjoying those warming rays of the sun. Now, there is a pair that have a nest close to here, and of course we've got the pale morphs that are much closer to camp, and then we've got a dark morph, and he's got a pale, or I'm not sure whether he or she, but there's a dark and a pale morph that are nesting together down around Twin Dams. So we've made our way into the Mawati River, and as Jamie said, the birds are out this morning, and I've been really looking forward to having a morning with lights good for birding. So who knows, maybe today will be the day that we get to see the elusive white-throated robin chat. And of course, apart from being good for birds, the Mawati is great for leopards. Who knows, maybe we can find Queen Karula down here. No sign of her tracks around the treehouse waterhole, and no sign of her tracks heading south just yet. Darn it, and flew off. There was a little gabar goshawk. Now, of course, probably we're a bit early, but next month we've got to start looking out again for the grey-hooded kingfisher who nested in that hole last wet season. And while we continue our search for feathered friends and spotted creatures, it seems like Jamie's having all the elephant luck this morning.
Such an amazing view with the silhouettes of a whole herd of elephants that has come, not quite racing, but definitely walking with a purpose across from Buffelshoek and into Djuma. Right, now that they've all gone across, I didn't want to block their route in any way. Now that they've all gone across, we can reposition. Sure, very bright this morning. I can't actually see. I want to make sure we go quite slowly in case there's still some stragglers that I haven't noticed. Don't see anybody. Morning, ellies. Perhaps on their way towards Djuma Dam or Galago Pan. Stopping for a light breakfast on the way.
Good morning, mobile station. Is that okay? Morning, just want to go off of the cut line and the shortcuts. Otherwise, not
There
yet.
you go. Very much on the move, so I think our sighting with them will be relatively brief.
Last night, I think that two of us coming from Portugal across the cut line.
Something very peaceful about this particular scene. Big old female. She is massive. Trundling behind. And then a whole group of youngsters. A complete contrast to the elephant sighting we had at the start of the morning, where it was just a young bull on his own. This is the standard unit of elephant. It's a unit of elephant. 1 unit of elephant. A breeding herd of about, I'd say about 8 individuals. Collection of related females and their offspring. and slowly but surely melting into the vegetation, disappearing off to the south. The young male. That's such an iconic shot. Elephant disappearing off. Oh, stop to find something. Having a quick dig to get out whatever's underneath the ground that smells so nice. Oh, chivied along. Everybody hurry up. Time to go. No rest for this little one. He has to catch up with the rest of the herd. And there they go. Vanishing off. Now I can hear something moving over here. I'm just going to go see if it's the last straggling elephant. These elephant herds are often... You got him. These elephant herds are often tailed by large bulls, and I think that's exactly why I was going so slowly into the sun, because I couldn't see exactly if there was one behind them. And there we go. That assumption has proved to be correct. The bulls often tag along in the hope of perhaps finding a female in estrus, or maybe even just for a little bit of company generally as they move along. Since they do spend their lives being solitary, it's nice for them every now and again to encounter some other elephants. And they generally keep their distance for the most part, but this bull is definitely following along behind. We're going to duck past him, see what else we can find on our northern boundary. Let's head across to Steph and find out how his stroll through the bush is going.
Yes, and we've managed to find something that's quite rare here at Juma, and that's an erosion gully. It's not going anywhere, it's not particularly exciting until I let you know that erosion, as bad as what this looks like, is 100% natural. This is not caused by any man-made interference or any intervention, at least by man. This is how it's supposed to be. So it's the work of a river and the work of water to flatten mountains. And it's upliftment and it's volcanic activity and it's sedimentation that creates mountains. But water and the action of water is what breaks mountains down. And we're seeing a very, very pristine example of what that actually is. So right here, when rain falls, you get that rainfall erosion. As the drop of rain comes smashing out of the sky, it basically loosens the soil and creates this movement of soil, and then you get a sheet flow developing. So water that flows over the land and will start to collect in depressions. And here you can see the first of those depressions. So water flowing down from this area here will start to collect into this. And as you can see here, as the more water collects and the water starts to speed up and the gradient starts to increase, this sort of basic building block of a river comes down here and starts to get a little bit more serious at about this level. At this stage, the water starts to increase velocity, and with increased velocity, the water starts to pick up a bigger particle of soil, and you start to get this sort of thing happening where bigger particles of soil start to join or start to flow downstream. And as these little streamlets, this one and this one and this one and this one, all start to join together, you get this happening. And this starts to become what we call one of these early rivers. There's a word for it. For the life of me, I can't remember it as I'm busy speaking to you right now. But basically what happens is you start to get rivers forming that join together, they get a little bit bigger and join other bigger ones, and that has happened over here. So we're getting 1, 2 of the same size rivers joining one another, and by now you can start to see that the size of the particle that they are carrying is substantial. They are taking away the sand at a rate. Every time it rains, more and more will come down, until eventually what happens is a bunch of these smaller ones start to develop and will reach the water table. And at that point you've got a permanent river, or at least a semi-permanent river, because the water table does rise and fall with the seasons. So the water table lies just below below the level of the sand in the dry season, and sometimes in a very wet year it'll lie just above the level of the sand, in which case the water will flow for most of the year. That's basically what we've got over here. And then from there the Mawati will join a similar river, become a bit bigger and have more velocity, and will dig a deeper channel, and eventually that flows, I think the Mawati flows into the a river called the Nwati Tsonso, which lies just to the eastern side of the Sabi Sands, the northern Sabi Sands, and that then flows into, I think, the Olifants River, if I'm not mistaken, which is into the sea. But pristine example of a natural erosion here. And the reason why there's no plants here, of course, is because the movement to soil here is so rapid that plants can't germinate. You do get a couple of hardcore ones. This is a jackalberry, believe it or not. Yes, it's a jackalberry that's just getting absolutely hammered by everything. You can't even decide to grow. So it's, although it should be a fairly tall tree at this point, it looks like it is being eaten completely in copper stout, and it's just only allowed to do this. But what we'll do is, Jandra, if you wouldn't mind turning around and taking a look at all these little rivulets or streamlets, one here, one there, one there, one there, and what will happen is all of this will one day wash away as this creep up and flatten out the river. Isn't it nice? Nice to see. These things are healthy. They're meant to of happens there. We've got some elephant that are close by. It's cold. Brush up on that.
Now we've checked the Mawati, no sign of any tracks, and I think we're sticking around the river systems today. So now we're in Nyala Road South, following the little river system that comes out of the Buffels Hook waterhole, and we're going to follow it all the way to Buffels Hook. I just got a report from the east that 2 male lions crossed into Djuma last night, and we're heading towards Buffels Hook Dam. So a good place to start looking for tracks, not where they crossed, but a bit further to the west, and hopefully we'll get some luck, or maybe they'll even lead us to the Nkuhumas. Well, Kevin says he's pretty sure he heard the lions make a buffalo kill last night. And Kevin, I agree with you. I heard them chasing buffalo. I didn't actually hear a takedown though, and that mournful bellow of a buffalo with a lion attached to it. But it'll be interesting to see. Now, we're just slowly moving our way through. We've checked to the south now. There's no sign of leopard, so we're going to start making our way to the north. And let's just hope, fingers crossed, that they made the kill on Djuma and didn't go north into Buffels Hook. Come on, son, warm up. And it's been quite quiet. There hasn't been much a general game around. We haven't seen any zebras, impala, in Nyala Kudu. Actually, we haven't seen one duiker, I think, so far this morning. Been a bit quiet on the general game front. Now, oh, I have a second duiker sprinted across the road in front of us. A third duiker! It disappeared down into this river system. But they have led us to what looks like a little bird party. There we go. Hello, red-billed hornbill. Oh, no, he's also deciding he's off. No one's hanging about this morning, are they, Brian? Well, of course, we're birding this morning, and Calvin's wondering, how do we identify birds from a distance while they're moving or while we're moving? Well, Calvin, generally you go by a thing called general size, shape, and impression. So, if you have a quick look, you can normally pop it into one of the families, or hornbills are nice and easy. But of the smaller stuff, warbler, flycatcher, etc., etc. And then also depends where you see them, also is a good clue. If we're around a river system, or if we're up on a crest of a hill, or we're next to a dam. But generally, like anything, Calvin, it's practice makes perfect. The more you look at them, the more you're able to identify a little distinguishing features. I just wanted to have a look. No male lion tracks, so we keep going towards Buffalo's Hook. I'm really hoping we bump into a bird party that's being a little bit more cooperative. Now, birds are often the most difficult thing to get on camera, well, apart from butterflies. I think it's a bit too cold for butterflies this morning. Little one calling. Oh. Oh, sorry, Brian. As you got ready, he took off. Where did he land? Oh, no, he's gone. There's a little crombeck. But we've seen a warburg's sunning itself. You got him there, Brian. Little. Oh, that's so quick. It was a bleaching warbler or a green-backed Cameroptera. It's a very quick view of a Cameroptera, and of course, at another moment, just disappears from sight. And we'll keep moving, keep trying. Busy birds this morning. Now, Rick says lions seem to be a lot more vocal than leopards. Why so? Well, generally they are. Often the fact is that you've got multiple males that are in different areas, and they also have much larger territories to control, so that vocalization is more important. Leopards, apart from vocalization, or ellies, they also use a lot of scent marking as territorial boundaries. Hi, ellies. Are you chilly this morning as well? Hello, you. Seen any lions? No? Yes? If you just listen for a little bit, you'll hear lots of different things. Apart from the elephants feeding, listen to the birds down here along the edge of this little dry river. See how many different bird species you can hear. Okay, so I got at least 7 birds there, and that constant, that beautiful little chortle is of the black-headed oriole. There were some noisy drongos. There was a puffback shrike. There was, what else was there? I'm trying to. Oh, there was Cape turtle dove, green pigeon, but lots, and hopefully we can get them on camera for you shortly. But we're going to keep moving, seeing if we can catch up with those male lions. And while we do that, let's go see what Steph's up to.
We are up to walking through the Mulwati, and we've come to a place where there have been some bee-eaters nesting. I wanted to see if we have some luck with some white-fronted bee-eaters. Come with us, let me show you where they nest. And for a bird that's as pretty as a bee-eater, for them to nest in a place like this seems pretty bizarre. We won't get too close just in case we can see them, but inside this bank, there's a termite mound that has been cut away by the flow of the river. And you'll notice that on a plain, there are some holes in the bank there. And that is where some bee-eaters, some white-fronted bee-eaters, have been nesting in the past. They're not around at the moment, which shows me that they probably haven't started to excavate their nest. But bee-eaters have got the most fantastically curved beaks and these long bodies for catching bees and wasps and keeping the wasp sting away from their faces. And you'd never think that a bird like this will actually nest in a hole in a bank. And especially because it's so weird having this big curved beak that you need to dig with. So they basically go into the holes, will be stretching their face out, would take a tiny little scoop of sand and then use their feet to kick the sand out of the hole. And they nest in these colonies. We don't find huge colonies of bee-eaters here, but up in Botswana and Zambia you get these colonies of carmine bee-eaters. We see them around New Year. They come south when it's raining quite heavily up in the nearer to the tropics. They come down to South Africa to feed on termites and termite alates, those flying termites, and get out of the rain as much as what they can. And then just after Christmas, they all go back up north again and go and have their babies there. But they can literally be in clouds. Groups of thousands of carmine bee-eaters flying around your head. It's just a phenomenal experience, and one that we can sort of recreate over here. Not as much, but just sort of. Nothing in attendance now. We've been here for a good couple of minutes and there's nothing coming in. Although what I am noticing is in this huge jackalberry behind us. Come through here. Is a group of green wood hoopoes. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. So they are in the tree now. Jandre is going to hate me for wanting to get the bird to you. They're feeding towards us, and hopefully we can get a little bit closer to them here. Ah, no, there he goes. No, here he's in the open here, Jandre. You're not getting away so easily. Yeah, he's in the top. Oh, no, flown away. Alright, this morning's one of those weird days with birds. We're battling. But let me get a bit closer. I think you're going to lose signal if you come with me all this way. Let me just see if any of the holes are active. No. 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 So one or two, really. Ah. Jason, you've asked me to find you a fossil, and do I ever find a lot of fossils out here? Jason, you know, I've got the most wonderful story. Dr. Lee Berger is a very, very famous paleoanthropologist. He's just found, or has found in the past, that him and his teams have found many links in the evolutionary chain of humans and of their evolution, all in southern Africa. I was privileged enough to join him for a walk once, and he walked to a bank just like this, and it was just a little bit further down in the Sabi Sands, a little bit further south, and he dug around in a white calcrete layer, and I'm actually seeing if it hasn't surfaced yet. It lies just underneath this bed and we can actually see some of it. Let me get you some. This here, the layer that these rocks come from, these ones in particular, which lies just below this layer, is where he was digging around with he had a little piece of a rod, and he was digging around with the rod, and he dug out a bushbuck's bone, a bushbuck's foreleg bone. And he said to me, do you know how old this is? And I said, no. Well, firstly, he needed to tell me that it was a bushbuck, and he did it by using this funny formula that he had. He said, this thing is 60,000 years old. And he dug out a bone, literally, that was exposed in a rock stratum, just like this, that had been lying there for 60,000 years. And who knows, that bushbuck was probably from a leopard or a lion kill, or wild dogs perhaps, that was in one of these trees in the drainage line, had fallen down, had been covered in this layer of soil and sand, and 60,000 years of sedimentation on top of that before it was uncovered by the floods in the year 2000. And he just found it just walking around here. So fossils is in dinosaur fossils or ammonites or anything like that, not really that I found in the Sabi sands, but absolutely things that are tens of thousands of years old. And well, who knows, maybe we'll be lucky enough to find one on one of these walks going forward. But it was just such an interesting story to relate to that particular time with Dr. Lee Berger, who's now become quite famous. I don't think I'll be able to join him for a walk ever again. Right, this is probably the biggest peltiforum I've ever seen. Now, many of you will know that we talk about these peltiforums, the African wattle, quite often, and they tend to be small trees to little bushes like we have. I use it for bedding. I find it to be the most comfortable outdoor bedding when you are camping in the bush. Insulation is one problem, being comfortable is always another, and this full bedding. They also make quite nice waterproofing for shelters that you build, or that you could build out here. Makes a very nice waterproofing if you pick a handful and you lay them down like that on your shelter. The rain falls straight along them and not down them. But this here is the biggest peltiforum that I've seen on Djuma. I've been walking past one of this particular tree for the last year and I haven't even noticed it. But this is a real giant of a peltiforum. I didn't even know they get this big, to be quite honest with you. Hey big guy, how you doing? Say good morning to big old trees like this. Anna Marie, you are talking to my heart right now. You've just said, I hope that we get to see a weeping boerbean tree today. And that is exactly what we're walking around down on top of these drainage lines for, is to find you a weeping boerbean tree. For no small part is a bit of a selfish part there for me as well. I also quite enjoy them. And I'm expecting them to come into bloom at any day now. And I'm hoping that at some point today we'll find one of them that's in flower for you. The dwarf boerbeans are already in flower. The tambutis have even got seeds on them, some of them at the moment. So why the boerbeans have been reluctant to flower, I'm not too sure. But nevertheless, while we're finding some of those boerbeans to go to, we're going to be sending you through to Jamie for an update.
Well, I've got good news and I've got good news. Ooh. And a very loud radio. So the good news is that the Nkuhumas have not come out of Djuma. The other good news is that we are on our way to see Thandi. So all in all, an exciting prospects for the morning ahead. Right, where have these tracks gone? Can also tell you that a male lion walked down this road at some point last night. Unfortunately, they have now been driven over already. I was going to stop and show you some really nice male lion tracks, but they're already gone. Sorry. That's okay. I'm not going to stop and go back just because I do want to get to Thandi before we lose our spot at that time. Just keep going for now, and we'll follow up on the lions a little bit later. And apparently there's no sign of the cubs yet, but that's a big yet. There's a very good chance that she will call them out, so I'm hoping that if we go there and hope maybe we can sit there for a little bit of time, I think most of the guides and their guests have already seen Thandi, so we won't have to rush out of that sighting like we would normally. And hopefully we can spend a little bit more time with her. I'm going to be going quite quickly for now. Speaking of Thandi and her two little fuzzballs, Debbie, you've asked a question about Thandi's twin sister Shadow. And Debbie, and to all of the others that are asking about this, the answer is no, unfortunately not. There have been no further sightings of Shadow's cub. She was seen very briefly when Shadow first started mating about a month and a half ago now. And she hasn't been seen since, and Shadow's just been constantly mating with Tingana. I'd like to say that I'm still hopeful, but my hope is draining away, unfortunately, but you don't know. It's not confirmed. All I can tell you is that she hasn't been seen. I really hope that it's not the case, but it's not looking very positive. Really difficult for a little thing to survive for such extended periods of time without mom. It is a very sad situation. I'm glad though that we've got Thandi's cubs, but Shadow just seems to be incredibly unlucky in terms of raising cubs successfully. Our ladybug and daisies. No, this isn't Thandi's first litter. I actually got to meet her daughter, who doesn't actually have a name, just because she's been apparently was hardly ever seen, and she moved towards Mala Mala. She does have a daughter. I saw her for the first time, and it's the first and only time I've ever seen her, or any of us have ever seen her, on Cheetah Plains. And I thought it was in Nkanyeni, because I didn't know any better. I'd never seen Thandi's daughter, and I'd never seen in Nkanyeni, and therefore I assumed it was in Nkanyeni, in her normal territory. So no, she has a daughter and she has a son, both of whom have survived to adulthood. Brent, I think, has seen Thandi's son, Bahuti. Vem, have you seen? You've seen Bahuti. Okay, so we haven't seen Bahuti. Her daughter doesn't have a name. I think we should give her a name, to be honest. And then this would be probably not her first litter. And she's probably lost quite a few as she goes along. Because, of course, she's the same age as Shadow, as her twin sister, turning 10, I think, in November. So she will have had multiple litters in her life. It's what makes Karula so incredible, is her unbelievable success rate with raising cubs. Shadow and Thandi have not been as lucky. Now, I'm not sure whether it's testament to Karula's skill or testament to the bad luck of her two daughters. But Karula really truly is an exception to a general rule. Brr, it's getting colder. This ridiculous weather. There's a feeding party, but I'm going to duck it. I'm going to leave the birds for now. We are just going to keep racing across towards Thandi's sighting. Okay. And speaking of birds, since we have had such a marvellous bird-filled morning, David in Napa, my apologies, I should actually have clarified properly. You are absolutely right, it was an African pied crow that we saw earlier. So yes, absolutely it was. My third time seeing them. The first was with the Nkuhumas when the Birmingham boys stole their buffalo kill and then just ignored the buffalo kill. And we had lots of vultures, one of the few times I've seen Cape vultures, and then one random pied crow trying to pick up the scraps. The second was on a walk with Steph, and that was the third time flying over our heads. So it's very, very common to see if you're driving through one of the villages or one of the towns surrounding the Sabi-San, but we don't see them that often on the reserve itself. Aha. Hold on, everybody. I'm going to assume that the vultures gathered here are attracted to Thandi's 3 impala kills. Very impressive.
Gondo for 120 north, on in the other at north, towards Buffalo. towards the hole. Tracks have been walked over by elephants, but I'm going to try to follow.
Copy that, Brent. I didn't pick up anything at Buffelshoek Waterhole itself, but I was busy looking at buffalo weavers as well.
Jimmy.
Standing by.
Someone here, no?
I'm just coming through now. I'm on Gowrie Main. Can I make my way in?
There's space for you, yeah?
Copy that, thank you. We are just about to go into the sighting. I'm not sure how long we're going to have to spend with her. I see there's more than one vehicle. Hi guys, morning. I can see little leopard tracks on the road. I don't see any cub tracks. I'm not going to stop to show them to you right now. I'll show them to you on our way out. I just don't want to waste time not spending time with Thandi. Sorry, Brent, please go ahead.
What was your route from Buffelshoek Waterhole?
I went along Hippo Pools.
Any signs of those male line tracks?
Negative. There's Nkuhuma for Madura and Ngala going south on Cheetah Cut Line. Sorry, everybody.
Okay, copy.
Just chatting to Brent. It's a negative. They disappeared off around Central Road. I think I know where her cubs are. Just judging by where the tracks have gone. Here we go. Here's beautiful Thandi. Up in a tree. Hey girl. Let's see if we can't get a nice position to see her properly. So we're not allowed onto Torchwood, but there is a slight leeway that we'll be able to just go onto the, just slightly off the road from the fire break. Here we go. We won't push our luck, but we'll just settle here. Perfect. Now the reason I say I think I know where her cubs are, I can see their tracks going into Chitwa. So that's where she's taken them to. And there is the beautiful Thandi, one of my favorite leopards. I'm not quite sure what it is about her. I think it's her size combined with her nature. Thandi doesn't take any nonsense from anyone. Built up a little bit of a reputation as occasionally grumpy, but that's something that I really like about her. She doesn't take nonsense. Look here, girl. No, don't look there. Look here. Amazing. I wonder where the other impalas were. This is the last one, I think. Oh, there might be two in this tree. So she's obviously been very successful with hoisting, which is something that her sister Shadow is not so good at, for whatever the reason may be. And she's... oh, there we go. Here we go. Giving us a stunning view of her face. So Shadow's always been bad at leaving her kills on the ground, where they are almost instantly stolen by hyenas. We have seen her hoist before, but she rarely hoists larger kills. She kills impala and so on, but she very seldom puts them up in a tree. Karula, on the other hand, is very, very good at it. She eats as much as she can and then she lifts it up. I've seen her take an entire adult impala, still with its stomach contents inside it, up a 10-meter tree. So we know that she's exceptionally powerful. And Thandi, I think, perhaps has inherited Mom's strength in that respect. And if we're right about the theory of her taking her cubs away from this kill site, she's a very clever girl indeed. Knowing that 3 impalas is going to attract a lot of attention, and not just attention in the form of hyenas. The lions use this road regularly as a pathway between the eastern parts of their territory and towards Djuma and the northern parts. It's actually a veritable lion highway, which she will also be aware of. And that also is why it's a very, very good idea to hide her cubs elsewhere, away from the kills themselves. You can hear her crunching away delicately. Now we sit and we wait, and hopefully we won't have to leave the sighting before she goes and fetches her cubs again, if she goes and fetches her cubs again. Now they are already, even young and fluffy, they are already feeding off meat. Oh, look at that.
Everybody's okay. We have to give some other guys.
Such an iconic image, that. A leopard up in a marula tree, and you'll find that there's a very typical pattern with which trees leopards will put their kills in, and it makes total sense. The marula tree is probably the most common one that we see leopard kills in, and that's because they're broad, they're solid, and most importantly, they don't have thorns. And they always seem to have a convenient resting place for a carcass so that it doesn't fall to the ground. Marulas, jackalberries, fig trees in places where there are figs, and leadwood trees, those are generally the most popular choices. But for us, I would say that about 75% of our kills that we see are in marula trees. Possibly, yeah, probably around that. Maybe a little bit less. But the leopards, a really comfortable spot for them. The bark is nice and smooth, or smoothish, so they can go and lie in the tree. It's a good choice. Thank you, Ephraim. And a warm welcome to a name that I have not heard before, Sea Humans Photo. It's fantastic to have you on board, and I'm so glad that you have sent through questions. Now, you've got two questions. One is, how old can leopards get, and how can you tell them apart? So for this area in the wild, you're probably looking at about an average of around 15, 16 for the females, and probably just a little bit less for the males. That being said, leopards in captivity can live up into their early 20s. There's recorded cases of leopards living up to 21 years old, but that's very, very unusual in this particular area. And around 16, a leopard really seriously starts to lose condition. And because they are living out in the wild, and it is so tough, they very often die around 16 when they're no longer able to hunt. And just like all mammals, their eyesight is reduced, their hearing is reduced, they lose those hairs in the inside of their ear canal that provides us with hearing, and all in all, it just starts to seriously weaken them. Now, how do we tell them apart? Well, the typical way, the official way, is to look at the top row of whisker spot patterns, which are at the moment hidden behind the tree. So you look at the top row on the right and the left, and you count the number of spots. And it'll be something like a 2, 3, or 3, 3, or 4, 4. So referring to the ones on the right first, and then the number of spots on the left. Now, that being said, I find that the more time you spend with them, the more actually it's very easy to recognize individual leopards. When you spend a bit of time with them, they start to become as easily identifiable as, well, I suppose almost as people. Each one looks different. One way that often I find is more helpful for me, in terms, rather than trying to remember 2 3s and 3 3s and 4 3s, is to look for really characteristic spot patterns. Like Karula has a wow on her forehead. Literally, she's got the word wow on her forehead. And it's really clearly, once you see it, you can't unsee it. What's she looking at? She spotted something. Oh, no, back to feeding. Unfortunately, I can't really push it and go any further into Torchwood. I'm just sitting on the boundary now, but I can't reposition to get a better view. But this isn't too bad for now. So I like to look for typical spot patterns, but you learn to recognize the shape of their faces as well, and their body language, which any of our regular viewers will tell you, and our regular viewers were instrumental in helping me learn the different leopards. Hey, gorgeous. Thandi looks like her sister, Shadow. We're going to sit here and wait patiently. Let's head out to Steph, who is proactive in his approach of finding things this morning.
These ellies have absolutely trashed red spikethorn. And I didn't even know elephant ate red spikethorn, but they definitely decided that this one sounded nice. For what reason? It's just incredible. They pretty much ate virtually every season. It's the only reason how we managed to identify the tree was with this particular branch. Madness. But anyway, I have also found for Donna and Val your square-stemmed raisin. You asked me for that yesterday. Here's your square-stemmed raisin. You can see that very square stem, or Kalahari raisin as we call it, or sandpaper raisin it's also known as. Quite nice. Quite hard, and then has this incredibly rough textured leaf that you can use. I've used it on my rifle. I've used it on burrs on fingernails. If you have a burr developing on a fingernail, you can use it on that. This one is too tiny to have any sandpaper effect just yet, but by the end of summer there will be bushes of this particular tree all over the place. So I hope that answered your question. I hope you're watching this morning at least anyway, and that managed to find it. I found this particular one just on the edge of this grove here, and then we've come to one of my favorite places in the whole of Djuma, this thicket of Tambwetis. I love this thicket only because there's just this real big sense, this peaceful sense that's coming through here. And I was actually wanting to know if one of these trees, this grandfather of a Tambweti tree, if berries have come out yet. Because yesterday we managed to find one with some berries on it already. The first of the, yes, here we go. Is the first one. Now the Tambweti trees, their fruit, which is basically what you're looking at over there, this little three-lobed fruit, get infested with a caterpillar that eats the fruit on the inside of this bulb and then jumps around. So it actually flicks the fruit off of the tree. They carpet these areas, literally just carpet these areas around our feet. And as that caterpillar jinks and bends inside that capsule, it makes the seeds jump quite high, probably about this much. So you are going to come here in a few months' time, probably end of October, beginning of November, mid-November, and I fully expect this to be carpeted with jumping seeds that are just jumping all over the place. And we'll come and have a look at how some of them are jumping. That's what I'm expecting. It was nice to see. This doesn't have as big a fruit as the one I found yesterday, but definitely, now that we get a bit closer, definitely has many of these fruits already. There's one right here. And on that, and as soon as Kirsty's ready, I suppose, we're going to send you over to Brent, who's got an update for you.
We're on these male lion tracks at the moment, and they're heading down the road. I'm just trying to figure out where they leave the road and where they come in. Now, we had a lot of buffalo herd tracks down around Drakensberg Road, and I'm wondering if these two Birmingham boys didn't go catch themselves a buffalo last night. Now, it is possible they might have heard the Nkuhumas and decided it's much easier to go steal a buffalo than catch one. So I think if we get no luck here, there's been quite a lot of cars already on the road. I think we're going to head towards that area where the Nkuhumas and that large herd of buffalo might have met up last night. Now the sun is not playing nicely with Brian and myself this morning. If anything, it seems like it's colder than when we first got up. I'm trying to check very carefully through this area. Oh, there comes a bit of sun. Joy. Now, of course, we have lots of different animals that are around here, and although we are having quite a dry morning so far, I mean we've seen about 3 duiker, almost no impala, but we'll keep checking. Now Karen is wondering who gets to name the leopards and lions. Well, Karen, that's a question. So with the leopards, it depends where the leopard holds most of its territory, and then normally those decisions are made at a head rangers meeting where names are put forward and then they are decided. So with Shongile and Hosanna, we put them forward at the last head rangers meeting and we got the names through. Now with the lions it's a bit more complicated, and so most of the lions will have a name before their rival have had a name for a long time. For example, the Nkuhuma Pride have been around for many years, so they're just the Nkuhuma Pride. With the male lion coalitions, unless they're a new coalition that comes in from Kruger, from an area where people don't know them, you probably find they will have a coalition name from an area before they set up shop in the area that they're going to hold territory over. So for example, the Birmingham boys came from the Timbavati on the farm Birmingham, and when they were already called the Birmingham boys when they first became independent of their pride. So that's pretty much how the names work for that. Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio. Ephraim has also come to give me a hand looking for these lion tracks. We've got tracks of a herd of buffalo running. So we're going to keep looking. Hopefully we have some success with these male lions. But while we look for male cats, let's go to a female cat with Jamie.
A female giving us a fantastic demonstration of her incredible poise and skill, managing to balance on that marula tree branch and at the same time feed with her head right down. And this goes to show the agility of leopards is a truly impressive thing. Here we go, settling back down again. The other impressive thing, of course, is the opportunism of leopards. The fact that you got 3 in one go. Our bush mum is obviously watching from at least somewhere in Africa, probably somewhere in South Africa. I'd love to know exactly where you are, bush mum, because you have raised a very good observation. Now, bush mum, apparently there are a couple of leopards where bush mum lives, and the leopards there never hoist their kills. And she was wondering if perhaps that is because there are no other predators. Yes, that's exactly why they don't hoist their kills. So anywhere where a leopard is basically an apex predator, where there are no hyenas or lions, then chances are the leopards aren't going to bother with the whole deal. It's only in places where there are other predators that they will hoist their kills. Look, sometimes you might get the odd aberration, an leopard whose instinct says put this in a tree, it'll be safe. But for the most part, you really do. It can be that learning process can be very, very rapid. And what I mean by that is if a leopard moves from a place where there are other predators to a place where there aren't any, which of course is what a lot of leopards do, because they, especially young males, that disperse over large distances. Now, a female's less likely to disperse that far, but a male definitely will. And it's an almost instantaneous change where they stop pulling their kills up into a tree. Isn't this spectacular? What a phenomenal view. And we have this almost all to ourselves. Nobody else wants to come and join us, which is wonderful news. We're going to sit here for as long as we possibly can. So it's a very astute observation. Leopards just only hoist to get it out of the way of hyenas and lions. And it does make me wonder as to whether or not where the other kills are from Thandi. The last time I saw, she had 2 impalas underneath a bush, and then this one in the tree. Perhaps the other 2 have been left behind as decoys for the hyenas of the area, whilst she focuses on looking after this one. Actually 3 adult impalas for essentially 1 female leopard. Her cubs will nibble on it, but at this point they're too young to eat very much of the carcass. 3 adult impalas is a little bit much for even an animal with an appetite as voracious as a leopard. And I think in the end, something's going to go to waste, or at least go to the hyena, perhaps. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is about today that's making me sneeze. Now, Leslie, while I attempt to hold back another sneeze, my apologies, you wanted to know how long an impala will last up a tree, and will they always hoist into the same trees? No, they won't hoist into the same trees, although it might happen every now and again. For the most part, they just go with whichever tree happens to be closest. And then in how long they can last, well, if a leopard doesn't finish off all of the meat, and they don't always finish everything, the leopard will just leave it up in the tree. Ah, look at that. Done with breakfast for now, and settling down. Now, Leslie, I know of a few impala carcasses up in trees that have lasted up to 4 years, just a skeleton still hanging in a tree. One of the guys that I used to work with always used to take new people to their camp, and he used to joke that the impala had climbed up the tree and got stuck and died up in the tree, which actually wasn't that funny. But absolutely, if it's not knocked out of a tree, which it usually is, by scavenging birds, things like tawny eagles or battaliers, then absolutely it will stay in the tree for a very, very long time, years, in fact, up to several years. There's a deka not too far away from where we are now that Karula caught, and then she left because she could hear her daughter Thandi mating with Tingana not too far away from her. And she left it there, and it's still there in the jackberry tree to this day, and this is now almost a year later. Aha, very good question from Vulpine Wolf Girl, who would like to know what the weirdest thing is that I've ever seen a leopard eat. I saw a leopard eat a marula fruit once. That was kind of weird. But I'm thinking more in terms of prey species. What's the weirdest thing I've ever seen a leopard eat? Sure. I've heard stories of leopards eating things like aardvark and on odd occasions random things like jackal or serval, but that's something that I've never had a chance to witness. I've never seen. My leopard kills have been relatively ordinary, if you could call it that. Actually, I think I do know what the weirdest thing I've ever seen a leopard eat before, but it was a sad story. It's not a happy story. And it involved working somewhere else a long time ago, and a leopard feeding off a poached rhino carcass. They are scavengers, and they are more than happy to eat whatever they can find, whatever they happen to encounter. They're not fussy at all. You can see her picking her way around the branches of the marula tree, looking for a nice, comfortable spot to find. Viam, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen a leopard eat? I can't think of anything weirder. So Viam's seen Tingana eat an aardvark. I, of course, have never even seen an aardvark, so I haven't quite got that on my list just yet. What is the weirdest thing we've ever seen them eat on a live safari? Yes! That's a very good one. Kirsty's remembered one, where Mvula ate a monitor lizard. That's a very good... When was that? That must have been ages ago. But Mvula ate a monitor lizard. I've heard of them eating pythons before. Oh, that's very true. There's actually a picture of it as well. The wonderful story of a leopard in the Kruger National Park, and the way this person tells the story is just describing how they set up for their family's breakfast with their kids, and all of a sudden they hear shouts of leopard, leopard, and this leopard comes wandering through, watching people scatter in all directions, and stands up against what we would call a skottel, or a braai, but is basically a barbecue equivalent, stands up on it and starts picking the cooking bacon off the grid. So leopards do that occasionally. Imagine seeing that. Must be such a bizarre moment. Truly surreal. Both terrifying and at the same time fascinating. Obviously that's a leopard that has learnt. That's unusual behavior. Leopards can be quite shy. But that's a leopard that's learnt that people are not a threat. And that if it marches in, everybody's going to run away and leave it free to snap up the bacon. Quite literally. There's some amazing stories of leopards from Kruger. They are fascinating creatures, and they do weird things. Weird and unexpected things. Like Karula apparently taking the laundry off the line and rolling in it at the DRC. They're definitely one of the most unexpected of cats. Although that, I suppose, is a very cat thing to be. Unexpected and unpredictable. That can't be comfortable. And the reason I say that is she is so full right now. I mean, her belly is bulging. This has been a feast for several days. She's now lying on her belly. If she's now looking at another impala to catch, I'm going to be seriously flabbergasted. She is looking intently off to the north of us into Torchwood. And Brent raised a good point. A lot of the animals here walk this path in towards Chitwa Dam. So she's found herself the perfect ambush spot. Let's have a look at the bird that's just flown in. Sorry, distraction, I know. It's just flown down into that marula tree there, and I'm struggling with it. It's a juvenile of some description. I'm just trying to work out, it looks like a juvenile tawny. It's slightly mottled. Well, not even a juvenile, might actually be a sub-adult. You can see there's still white patches on it. It is an eagle though, and I think it's a tawny eagle. Just a slightly ruffled looking one. So birds of prey do actually get their adult plumage after many years of maturation. And the juveniles tend to look a lot scruffier than the adults, than the sleek adults. But to see a tawny eagle at a leopard kill is a very common sight indeed. Oh, such ruffled feathers. And they wait for their opportunity to go and grab scraps either off the ground or from the kill itself. Well, we've got the perfect spot to camp out and warm up in the morning sun along with this tawny eagle. Let's go and have a look at another pretty thing that Steph has found for you.
Look at how wonderful this show that this tree wisteria is putting on for us. One of the few that is low enough for us to actually get you a shot of the pictures, of the flowers nice and close up. Isn't it just a wonderful tree? And just in such a drab landscape at the moment, it's just all this open plain. The grass is nice, of course it is, but just have a look at this wonderful tree wisteria putting on its show. I love these trees, to be honest. They just have their flowers for a few short days. They get pollinated, and then the petals of the flowers drop off and disappear, leaving the tree, not just the tree, of course, but leaving the tree with just its leaves for the rest of summer, where it makes all its energy throughout the entire summer. It's one of the very first trees to push out flowers. I think the last time, or the first tree wisteria that I did see had flowers on, probably 3 weeks ago now. So that was the first tree wisteria that I saw with flowers on. This will be one of the last ones in the area that get flowers at the moment, and always heralds the spring for me. This and the knobthorns are the two trees that herald the spring. So spring well underway, which is a good thing. It's quite cold at the moment. There's a breeze that's busy blowing up from the south. It's been blowing steadily from the south for the last couple of days now. Brian predicts that by this afternoon the wind will have stopped, and then we are in for as he puts it, a cookathon from Friday. I don't quite know what that's supposed to mean, but I'm sure by Friday we'll be able to tell you if we're in a cookathon with Brian. We are heading towards that massive boerbean tree on top of the Termite Mound, the biggest one that I know of at Djuma, and also one of my favorite trees here. So we're on our way there, and we've been popping in at all these pans that are dotted down the Mulwati just to see what is going on there. And almost all of them have got decent water in. I think that the time of having no water around has pretty much come to an end, even though it was premature to our, watch out for this will rip your calves off, as substantial as what they are. These are the things that can catch you unawares. This an elephant has broken off, chewed off this end, and then just discarded the leftover stems with all these vicious thorns on for Jean-Ray to hook himself on. So I think that the time of having no water has actually come to an end, to be honest. Kevin, you've just asked me, am I always aware of wild animals in my environment when I'm presenting? How do I answer this question? Truthfully, no, I'm not. That's one of the reasons why we have Herbert floating around in the bushes in front of us while I'm busy presenting to the camera and looking for interesting things to show you. My attention is definitely not on the environment, and that is absolutely one of the rule number ones of walking through the bush, is that your peripheral senses need to be extended as far as what you can so you don't get into trouble. So there was a time, as you may have remembered, when we were doing bushwalks, just 2 at a time. Scott and I started, and then it went into for probably about half a year or so, where we were just doing 2-person bushwalks, but that proved to be too dangerous. We were getting ourselves into too much trouble, mainly because one of our 2 ears was blocked with a channel and a conversation to final control, and also with the cameraman presenter dynamic that I have with you at the moment. It does mean that I'm not looking behind me, and quite often I'm marching backwards while I'm speaking to you, and that definitely isn't the best thing when you are approaching pans full of buffalo and things in the front there. So that's the easy answer. The more complicated answer, I suppose, is that because I live here and this has been my home for so long, I have a very good feeling for what's around. It's a funny thing to say, but you can almost feel things when they're around. Your body attunes itself to the way the bush talks. Now, next time you're with a leopard, possibly even when you go back to Thandi in a bit, if there's a bird nearby, you'll notice that that bird's behavior changes when they see a leopard. Very many animals change like that, and you become sensitive to that. We see it when we're approaching elephant, or when we're approaching buffalo, or even the cats. All of a sudden, a lion would sit up and look at you, and you made not a sound. or crocodiles would rush off of a bank, or buffalo would just all of a sudden turn around and run away. And that's because they are tuned, they're even more sensitive to the bush and its nuances than what we are out here. So there is a sense. I mean, for now I've heard some cracking branches off there in that direction, probably about 300 or 400 yards away. I know there's elephant there, so I'm expecting at any moment to hear something. So part of what this ear is doing, it's busy listening over there for the next crack to judge distance. But yeah, that's basically that. So I know I didn't quite answer your question there, but I hope I gave you a satisfactory comment on it in any case. I want to head to these pans here. We've got this junction here we lovingly call Spaghetti Junction. And at Spaghetti Junction, there is a series of very deep pans. And I want to go and see how much water collected from just 25 millimeters of rain. We literally had that much rain across this whole area. It was nothing, comparatively speaking, to some storms where we can get 100 mils of rain in the same amount of time. But in this particular sense, we just had 25 mils of rain. And I want to go and see basically how much water is collecting in these puddles. Now, in the meantime, James, you've just asked me, or James Richards, you've just asked me, when are we going to see some giant land snails again? And that's a good question, James. I think they're going to come out as soon as we have over 100 mils of rain, I would say, collectively speaking now. So we've had 25 mils of rain plus 2.5. I reckon another 2 or 3 big rainstorms of 25 mils to 35 mils. That's what we're expecting this time of the year. And we should start seeing a lot of giant land snails coming out. Incidentally, I've got some giant land snail. For those of you who don't know what a giant land snail is, I carry around a collection of stuff in this backpack that I hardly ever get to show you. So I just happen to have 2 giant land snails shells. This is an old one. It's been bleached in the sun. It's been lying out here for a few years. This guy probably died last year, or maybe the year before. So this is a slightly fresher one. These are the shells from a giant land snail. This is about as big as they get. And they are the largest land-based mollusks on the planet. So mollusks, and they are the largest land-based mollusks on the planet. They are about as large as what they can get without having to be supported by water of some sort. I carry them around because they are nice cups. I quite like them. I haven't quite figured out how to turn them into earrings just yet, or a necklace or something here. I'm still busy formulating something in my mind. We'll get to it at some point. What killed them? Probably the young fireflies. The larval stage of fireflies. Firefly lands, injects an egg onto the giant land snail. That larvae hatches into the spiky horror that basically eats the giant land snail, kills it, and that's why we have these shells lying around all over the place. I just find it incredible. Have a look at that. Nice patterns. Right. And on we go to the pans at the Spaghetti Junction, but it's going to take us a bit of time to get there, and Brent has found you some buffalo to go and have a look at.
And we made our way towards the Nkuhuma Pride. Tracks of those male lions went back into Torchwood. Now, the Nkuhuma Pride were not far from here. At the moment, I can see, I don't know, probably 70 to 80 buffalo. There could be more. And I've got to wonder, I definitely heard buffalo stampeding last night. And we're not very far from where there was that herd of about 400 yesterday. So I'll move a little bit further forward. And I wonder if the Nkuhumas have succeeded. Oh, look at that. Now, I'm trying to get us a two-shot, as we would call it. I think it might be quite difficult. But there's, behind the buffalo, there's elephant as well. And also very cool birds. are around at the base of the buffalo's feet. Now they're taking advantage of any little thing that's been disturbed. Let me just go forward a bit. Actually, back's better. A massive flock of wattled starlings that are moving with the buffalo herd. If we have a look, it's a bit more open this side. Look at their feet there, Brian. Here we go now. Oh, of course. Now, what I'm trying to do is we're trying to find a male and see if they've started with their breeding colours, but there's some oxpeckers as well. He's cleaning his beak on the horn. Still, as you see, not any babies, only sub-adults. Oh! And you can hear that. Those are that wattled starlings. Let's just get a bit further forward. Now the herd is looking a little bit nervous. But there we go, that's looking a bit better. Let's just go a bit further forward. There's elephants. They look like they might. And if there's a young bull elephant there, he might think about chasing the buffalo. Sandy in Canada was wondering, what is the gestation period of a buffalo? And it is quite long. It's about 11.5 months. Now, a buffalo can give birth throughout the year. There's normally a little peak in birthing around the rainy season. Now, I'm flabbergasted we haven't found any lion tracks yet of the Nkuhumas. I've looped around where Jamie last had them. I just want to wait to see what these elephants do, because sometimes they just, for no apparent reason, decide it's a good idea to chase buffalo. Oh, you can see the little wattled starlings. There we go, that's a male. Oh, you can see his wattle, he's in full breeding plumage. So during the winter months, they don't have that wattle. Now, they're a very mobile starling species, and they move around in big flocks and often found around big groupings of animals where they take advantage of any insects that are disturbed by them. Literally following in the footsteps of the buffalo, just waiting for a morsel to pop out. That little Ellie bull almost looks like he's thinking about chasing a buffalo. He shook his head slightly at one a bit earlier. Now that high pitched is that. Indeed, that is the starlings. I'm going to go back a little bit. There's one displaying quite nicely, Brian. Oh, of course he flies away. Okay, now I can't believe the Nkuhumas haven't. Oh. Look at that, he's thinking about it. Am I going to chase a buffalo today? But to the back, there's one sneaking up on a buffalo. Oh, that buffalo is getting out of there. He knows the elephant's up to no good. Not being caught unawares by these creatures. Of course, there have been some records of elephants killing buffalo, but it's very, very seldom, and normally in times of stress around drought, around water holes. It looks like the elephants are going to cross south behind us. And the buffaloes are going north in front of us. Okay. Yeah, the buffalo making that lowing sound. Boom. Oh, look, there's another one. Hey, little guy. Oh, off he goes. The elephants are definitely looking happier now that we've had some rain. Okay, I'm just going to move forward a little bit to the buffalo that are heading north. Now, Andrew in London is wondering, will buffalo, if attacked by lions in a group with other buffalo, help defend? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It all just depends on the situation. And you can see they're quite skittish this morning. One has to wonder, in this little group, is it a splinter off that big herd that was around yesterday? Now the wind's picking up quite a bit, which will also put them a bit more on edge. So we know there's buffalo here. The lions were sort of off that direction. Sign of these lions. While we do that, Steph has got a zebra. A zebra.
You know, there's just something fantastic about a zebra on foot. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I like seeing them on foot like I do. But there's just something about their curiosity, perhaps, or their general just health. They always look healthy, and it always gives you a nice feeling when you see zebra. I don't know. There's a couple of them there. The grass here is very, very good. And they're not seeing us as a threat whatsoever. I've come to sit down on a stump, and we're probably about 50 to 60 yards away from these animals at the moment. And they honestly couldn't be bothered. They've been watching us for a while, and now they are moving off. Just have a look at that blaze on the forehead there. Some of my absolute favorite patterns in the bush is that pattern that they have on their forehead looking at us right now. And then another favorite of mine is on their front leg, just on their shoulder blade. There's a chevron that develops. Oh, we're being hunted by a zebra. Don't quite know what I am. I have my back to them, and although Jean-Andre is standing up and his profile is pretty unique and distinctive, my profile isn't. I'm hunched over. What they'd be looking at is a big shiny ball of light as the sun reflects off the top of my head, with a camouflaged jersey on with a big backpack on that I'm sure is confusing that zebra to no end. And just the same as how we distinguish shape and a person's profile by the way that they walk and by the way that they look, so zebra too do exactly the same thing. They're able to distinguish the general size and shape of a threat. And quite often, when you present something that's unusual like I am at the moment, they'll sit and they'll stare at you like this one is doing, very confused. Another animal that does that quite often is a giraffe. And you can get giraffe and even zebra to approach you like this one is, wanting to know exactly what type of animal you are. The reason why that zebra isn't threatened at the moment is that they really can outrun almost anything out here. They're incredibly good sprinters. And with those overly developed hindquarters, they can jump off the mark incredibly quickly. And they can jink a lot as well. They can change direction, throwing off a predator's attack. I would expect that that's probably one of the stallions, but quite tough to say from here. And I would actually need a pair of binoculars and a lot of luck. No, don't know. From this angle, virtually impossible to tell. But just have a look at the health of that zebra at the end of this dry season. Yes, the grass has been growing for about a week or so, and they've had a good head start. But they've managed to weather the storm of this drought season like nothing else here has. Very, very good condition. And clean. All right, now we are at this giant weeping boerbean tree. But while I get around the corner and while we still have view of the zebra, Emma, you've just asked me how large in terms of weight can a zebra get. Now Emma, that particular animal there weighs about 250 kilograms, about 500 pounds. And next to the waterbuck, a large waterbuck bull, oh, here we have a Wahlberg's eagle. Next to a large waterbuck bull, a large kudu bull, and a large wildebeest bull, the zebras hold prime spot as being one of the heaviest animals out here. So anywhere from 250 to about 300 kilograms. That's about 500 to about 600 pounds. So small for a horse. Our domestic horses can get much bigger than that. I'm not a big brain, or I don't have a lot of knowledge about domesticated horses, but some of the horses that friends of mine have seem much larger than zebra, especially when you get up close. A zebra is actually quite a small thing. Let me see if I can put it into perspective. That zebra's waist is about here on me, and standing up straight, I would imagine that the top of that zebra's head would be just below where my head is. So somewhere around here would be where that zebra's head is at the moment. So waist about here on me, maybe a bit lower, the back of the rump, and then head about here. Very awesome. Band of dark clouds busy coming in. Right, now we're at this tree. This is what I wanted to come to, and we don't have any sign of flowers yet. So for those of you wanting to see if there are any flowers, I don't even see buds of flowers. And that's quite bizarre. It's a bit of a letdown, to be quite honest with you, that there is no flowers there, but it's a good opportunity for me to come and say hello to one of my favorite trees out here, growing on top of man. Hello there, boy. Yes, it's always good to come and say hello to big, are ancient beyond even our imagination ancient, and they have lots and lots of memory. And I quite enjoy getting energy from things like this. You know, you have to come and say hello to old giant trees like this. But anyway, And this tree doesn't have a leopard in. Jamie does have a tree, I think, with a leopard in.
From a weeping boerbean to a marula tree with one very large leopard, Thandi could not look more contented if she tried. In fact, a perfect description, I think, was what came from Viam. She's bulging over the branch of the marula tree like a beanbag. Her stomach has molded perfectly over the sides, and I am particularly impressed with just how full this particular leopard looks. Absolutely astounding. Shifting to get a bit more comfortable. I'm not sure I would feel terribly comfortable with a belly like that, bulging over the sides. But she's certainly somehow managed to make it look like a good spot. Morning, Andrew. How are you? Good, thank you. Of course, with absolute pleasure. No sign of Bantuans, I think. Yeah, so we've just been sitting waiting. Hi, guys. Andrew coming to join us in this particular sighting, and hard to pass off this opportunity. Bobby, you wanted to know whether or not if she were to leave this kill in the tree, which she might do at some point to go and fetch the cubs, would the vultures descend and get it? My suspicion is that it wouldn't be the vultures that would come and grab or take that opportunity. I would expect things like tawny eagles and bateliers. That being said, however, there is a chance that a vulture might take the opportunity to descend and come and join her, or join in the feeding frenzy around the carcass. And that is one of the ways that leopards lose their kills. If they've got it in a tree and they go vanishing off, then the birds of prey come down. They aren't quite skilled enough to sort of peck away at the meat without the carcass dropping out of the tree. Hello, gorgeous. Yes, I know. Thandi's got quite a sad-looking face. I don't think she's a sad leopard. She's just got quite a sad-looking face. So those would be the primary threats to her kill if she were to leave. And at some point she is going to. I just hope that it's during, sort of in the duration of the sunrise safari, then perhaps we'll have a chance to see them. I think I know where they are. I could see their tracks going south into Chitwa. Perhaps she's waiting for it to get a little bit warmer. She knows that lions and hyenas are far less likely to be moving about. And that would be the perfect time to bring brawling cubs to come and feed. They, of course, are another big risk to this carcass. Without the necessary skill or strength, lots of occasions, I know you've seen it with Karula and her cubs, leopard cubs come clambering up, try and feed off the carcass and end up dropping it. And poor Mom has to be on standby to race down, fetch it and put it back in the tree. Sort of like moms around the world cleaning up after toddlers that have spread food all across the kitchen. It's the rough leopard equivalent. And perhaps she's just relishing this moment of peace. She's found the perfect spot with a branch that goes over her head, sort of wrapped around her neck. And I think it's provided quite a nice point for her to rest up against. Oh, crazy wolf. Let's say, for example, Thandi repositions, and because she's so round, she goes rolling out of the tree. You were wondering how it is that a leopard always, or a cat always lands on their feet. I've seen a little bit of research done into this and a little bit of instruction as to how it all works. And generally it's just the incredible muscular control that they have over their bodies and the ability to twist and turn so that their feet land on the ground. I have occasionally seen instances where leopards haven't landed on their feet before, in fact all cats, so it doesn't always work, but their incredible coordination and their level of perception of the world around them means that they are often very good at twisting and landing safely down once again. So I hear that the Nkuhumas, having spent the morning giving us the slip, are now on the Djuma Dam camera. Just to comfort you all, we are aware of it. Thank you very much for letting us know. Brent is racing towards them as we speak. I had a suspicion that they hadn't gone far, Having checked all around and not seen any tracks coming out, I had a suspicion they were still basically where we left them yesterday evening during our private rehearsals. So you get to spend some time with us and Thandi while Brent races along there. And by the sounds of it, when I was last listening to the Game Drive channel, he's not too far away. So he should be there relatively shortly. Cool, man. What an exciting morning. Thandi, you've got to perform now, girl. Not perform. That's a terrible way of putting it. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just really hoping that she does go down and fetch her cubs. She doesn't look like she's going anywhere, though. Don't know if any of you have ever seen those short animated clips of round animals, if animals were round. There's a wonderful one of a leopard up in a tree that then stretches, rolls, and bounces off the tree. That's kind of what Thandi reminds me of now. And it is an absolute pleasure to see her in such good condition. At this point, she probably weighs more than Karula does, although Thandi to me has always been a little bit tinier. I don't know what it is about Thandi, but I think she's quite short for a female, or for a female in this area. But right now, she probably is heavier than Karula. She must weigh an extra good 5 kilograms than she might normally, which is wonderful, considering she's got 2 hungry mouths to feed as well. Now, see human's photo while we look at this beautiful cat. You want to know what the biggest human threats are that leopards face. It depends upon where you are. Out here, they actually face very few human threats. The only thing that is most likely, so they're not something that is poached in this area, thank goodness. The biggest threat to a leopard in this area would probably be a snare, a bushmeat snare, that often these metal nooses that desperate people set out on the boundaries of reserves in order to try and catch themselves some extra food, antelope or something like that. And before we judge too harshly, just remember that these are people that have very little in their lives and are desperate and starving. Before we judge them too harshly. But unfortunately, those snares often have unintended victims. They're not looking to catch leopards or any predators, but unfortunately, sometimes it does happen. Now, luckily where we are in the Sabi Sand, the fences in the area is regularly patrolled. So there are I would say there's probably no snares out here. But it's always a possibility. In other parts of the Kruger National Park, yes, it's a serious threat. In the rest of the world, one of the biggest things that is a threat to the leopard population, at least the rest of Africa, is their perceived threat to livestock. So you can't fence a leopard. You can't put it into a game reserve, into a protected area and tell it to stay, because if it doesn't want to, it won't. It will bounce out over the fence and off it will go into farmland areas. And as a result, farmers see them as a threat, and they will often go out of their way to eradicate them, which is very, very sad to hear. And yes, they are, to a degree, a threat to things like sheep and maybe even small cows, what do you call these things? Baby cows? Calves. There we go. They are a threat, but at the same time, that's something that can be overcome with a great deal of education. And there's lots and lots of educational programs in South Africa. As you go further north into parts of Africa that are far more troubled and unstable than South Africa, then the threat becomes that of poaching for their pelts and for their bones. Very sad. Fortunately for us, this is not a fate that will ever befall one of our beautiful Sabi Sand leopard. And we know that they are safe and sound. Let's head across to Steph. Oh my goodness, he's on a roll this morning. He's showing you all the beautiful things. Let's go have a look at a bright red flower.
We found one for you. That is the first weeping bourbean flower of the season, and it couldn't have happened sooner. We're standing not too far from that old giant we were with a couple of minutes ago, and literally the closest bourbean to that is this one. So it's nice. Not the flowers just yet. We've seen maybe 5 sprays of a tree that will literally be covered in them in a couple of days' time, and I'm hoping that this heralds sort of the beginning of all of them flowering, and it will be quite nice. Interestingly though, this tree has lots of sap and lots of sap runs. And I wonder if it's not a healthier tree than that tree on the termite mound over there. It doesn't look to be, yeah, the one on the termite mound looks healthier, but I think this one here has a lot more access to water probably. And because of that, the sap runs on its bark are more pronounced. And maybe because of that, we're seeing the flowers develop on these trees first. Lots of sap. I'm going to bring some down to you now. But basically this whole tree is just covered in sap and would be where we get our amber from, or where the possibility of amber's from. Amber, of course, is fossilized tree sap, some of which contains insects. That there is tree sap, and has the possibility of getting some amber in it. But we're going to send you over. Brent's got to Nkuhuma Dam with a surprise for you.
Here we go, we've caught up with the incredible Nkuhumas, and they're making their way from the Nkuhuma Dam. And there's quite a few fat beddys amongst you. I wonder if they've got a kill somewhere, or if they caught a small buffalo last night. Hi guys. Doesn't look like they're going far. And there's a Birmingham boy here as well. Here he is. They're heading to the west. No, no, don't you dare, little cub. Now, we were just here, not even 10 minutes ago. So we must have just missed them coming out of the block. But I'm always happy to spend time with the Nkuhumas. Now they're about to go into quite a thick little river system, so I'm going to pop around to the other side of it. And I'm sure that Birmingham boy will get up and follow now. But I just want to keep up with them in case they do maybe possibly have a kill, but it's unlikely that all of them would have come to drink at the same time. So while we catch up with the lions, let's go back to Jamie with Thandi.
Now, the lions are giving Brent a run for his money. Thandi has been very, very kind to us and has not moved more than a couple of inches up further into her marula tree. And now we wait and play the patience game. But this is a rare pleasure indeed. We hardly ever get to see Thandi, and I think this is probably one of the longest periods of time I've actually ever spent with her. When we've seen her, the only other times that we've seen her properly has been when she's been mating with Tingana, following him into Karula's territory. We've had a chance to properly spend some time with her. But to spend time with her on her own, in a portion of her territory, I've only had this pleasure a couple of times around Cheetah Plains. And it seems as though with her cubs she's been spending a great deal more time in Torchwood. Now Jason, you were wondering if she's called for the cubs yet. No, she hasn't. Not this morning at least. In fact, she's barely even glanced over her shoulder in the direction that I think she's left her cubs. So no calling just yet. I think enjoying a rare moment of peace. Kind of like a mom on a morning off. No calling just yet, but as soon as that does happen, she'll probably, what I predict, We'll wait and see, because you shouldn't try and predict a leopard's behaviour. If she does decide to go and fetch them, she's going to come down the tree, she's going to walk across the road into Chitwa, giving that soft, gentle tch, tch sound that leopards make, and then hopefully come back with 2 bumbling little cubs behind her. That's what I'm hoping. That's what's happening in my head already. We're just waiting for that opportunity to see them. I've been desperate to see Thandi's cubs since the moment I found out they'd been born. But since she is resting peacefully, and Brent does have some baby big cats for you, let's go and watch the antics of the lion cubs.
Yeah, they've moved through this little river system into quite a thick area. We got a visual of a couple of the cubs, and you saw that big boy who followed them at the back. And I'm trying to see whether they're going to lie down. I thought they might keep moving, but it looks like they might rest up here, very close to the lodge. I can hear lots of noises of cubs playing a bit deeper in the thicket, so maybe let's try and move a little bit further forward. Oh dear. Thorns. Okay. Survival with only 1 thorn in the finger. So it's not uncommon for lions to lie up in thickets like this. Just going to move slowly, slowly. Now they're all looking quite well fed. Just roll. There we go. Now the others are just in a really thick area. We can't actually get any visual of them. You can hear them though. Okay, well, if that cub moves, we might be able to see a few more of them a bit better, which is, thank you, mister. There we are, all spread out on the edge of this little river system here. And the ones we can hear are actually sucking, but we can't really see them. They're right in the heart of the thicket to the left of us. Now we've been incredibly lucky with the amount of time we've got to spend with this particular pride since they've given birth to these 8 wonderful little balls of terror. And it's quite funny, some of the older cubs have reached that sort of gangly phase, that sort of in-betweener phase, where their feet and legs look too big for the rest of their bodies. Now, I couldn't see which Birmingham this was. Look, he's playing there. Standing by. They're stationary now just in the Chkova, the fish cove if you're heading west on Mvubu. Oh, look at that belly. That is a big tummy for a little lion. So they might have actually caught something last night, but nothing big enough to keep them on it. There were lots of animals around there. There was that buffalo herd, there was zebra, there were kudu. So there were a lot of animals around where they were. That belly's so big he can barely walk. Doesn't mean he's not going to try eat some more by the looks of things. And it sounds like you guys are getting some great screenshots. Remember to share them with us on Twitter with the hashtag Safari Live, or pop them on our Facebook page, which is of course just Safari Live. Or if you're members of many of our viewers' incredible groups that follow the different animals out here, you can also share them with everyone who might have missed the drive this morning. Yeah, unfortunately not the best spot for us to view them, but nice to have them close by. Now Calvin's wondering, do the lions ever get curious enough to come to the car? Sometimes they do, specifically the younger cubs. When you're driving, they see the movement of their wheels and you watch their heads go round and round and round, but they will come quite close to the car. Sometimes out of curiosity, sometimes just they walk straight past us. They take very little notice of us as we follow them. Remember, hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarth.tv if you would like to ask us anything about the incredible Nkuhuma Pride or the Birmingham boys. Now, I'm not sure which Birmingham that is at the moment. I don't think it's the one with the hole in his face. There's a scar on the base of his nose. And while he's lying like that, now the guy with the hole in his face, so for me he's got a darker mane than this one. This could be old the Hoff or Blondie, I'm not sure what everyone calls him. And it looks like the pride is settling down. We're going to stay here, see if they get on the move again, or see if those cubs start playing once they've finished feeding. But while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and Thandi.
Things are definitely looking up in terms of our chances of Thandi fetching her cubs. First of all, she's swapped around. She's now facing a different direction, which is a good start. I think that was mainly, though, because she can't find a comfortable place to put that massive belly. But she did at one point lift up her head and rather half-heartedly chuff. Twice. Like she remembered she'd better check up on the cubs, but couldn't quite be bothered to get down the tree just yet, which is fair enough. I imagine hoisting that extra weight around might be a little bit uncomfortable. Look at her. Isn't it wonderful? It is so special to see her in such good shape. And she's positively exhausted from all that digesting that she has to do. But she definitely thought about getting the cubs. It was an idle thought, apparently, and a very half-hearted effort, but you never know. Very good question from Judy H, which is something I've been thinking about as well. So thank you, Judy, for sending it through. I forgot to talk about it. The question is, how long will it take for Thandi to be uncomfortable due to milk production and have to get down to go and suckle the cubs? The answer to that with leopards seemed to be that they can go quite an extended period of time without suckling. So in the initial stages of the cubs' first few weeks of life, the leopardess will return to them every couple of hours to suckle. But now with Thandi's cubs being, what are they? They must be close to 3 months old now. They're almost weaned, which means that her milk supply will be gradually drying up. Now, I haven't had a good chance to see whether she has any fresh suckle marks on her belly, although I would say that it's most likely that she got down at some point during the night or early this morning to feed the cubs and then returned back once again. The cubs have definitely been here because I could see their tracks all over the road. So they were around here last night. And the answer to your question, Judy, the long and the short of it, would probably be that she could go now with the cubs being about three months old. I'd say she could easily go for a day without suckling the cubs. That would be my guess. And as the cubs start to get older, the pressure on the mom to carry on hunting gets greater and greater. And I mean, we've seen Karula leave her cubs for 2 days at a time. We have no idea if perhaps she went by to check on them. That's entirely possible. But we've found them a few times in exactly the same place for 48 hours. And then Karula comes back to fetch them when she's ready to feed them. And she's so settled and comfortable. Sorry, I just had to listen to the Game Drive channel there for 1 second. I think that we can expect some company in the not too distant future. That's okay though, because there are no cubs here at the moment. They have opened up the sighting, so there are 2 vehicles allowed to come in at the moment, rather than just the one if she did have cubs. If she goes down and fetches her cubs whilst there is another vehicle here, both of us will sit very, very quietly until the cubs are in a secure place, and then I will move out. So to make it back to a 1 vehicle sighting again. A really nice opportunity to just examine the coloration of a leopard. The fact that they have rosettes on their sides and on their back rather than solid spots, which is of course one of the big things that sets them apart from cheetah. And then their incredibly solid, powerful build. They are, I would say, pound for pound. If I had to guess it, I would say that kilogram for kilogram, they are the strongest of the predators. They are just tiny creatures full of muscle, ferocity and power and speed. I was thinking about it after that lioness nearly got hold of Tingana. I was wondering how that scenario would have played out if she had managed to catch him, which of course would have been absolutely awful. But I think that a leopard would do some serious damage to a lion. She's definitely heavier than him and definitely stronger than him. But I think that the speed of his response to her attack might actually have taken her by surprise, and I still think he might have got away. A female leopard, of course, that's a different story. She's a good 100 kilograms lighter than the Nkuhuma lionesses, even with her current bulge. That's definitely not a creature she would want to tangle with. She just can't get comfortable. The time is ticking. We're going to patiently wait with Thandi. Let's head across and see what other wonderful thing Steph has found for you on Bushwalk.
You're busy looking at the young shoots of a buffalo thorn that's just gotten its springtime leaves, and they are the most tasty leaves out here when they are this young. They don't get tasty as they get older, believe me. They get very distasteful when they get older, but when they're young like this, they have a very sweet flavor. I don't quite know how to pin it. It's like a sweet spinach, if I could put it to you that way. It doesn't have the bitterness of a cabbage leaf. It's got that slight, it's more sweet than a spinach leaf, but like spinach. It's a fantastic tasting leaf when they're young. When they get a bit older than this, you have to cook them. I won't take all the new leaves, I'll leave them with some. Well, that was nice. Why I actually came here is I wanted to show you this rather insignificant marula tree. Not because marula trees are insignificant. If anything, I think that they're one of the keystone trees out here, meaning that they hold up an entire web of life over here. But apart from the marula fruit, which will come out between February and April, they also have other uses, these trees, and one of them is as a dye, a red dye. So you come up to a tree, pry off one of these barks. The bark of this tree comes off in these slabs, and they shed parasites, ectoparasites, like mistletoe, for instance, will come out of the bark. And then what you do is you take off the inside of the bark, and you'll see there that red. You can see how juicy it is. That red there not only makes a very nice red dye, but it also acts as a fantastic antihistamine. So you can peel off slabs of this bark, which will expose that red, juicy inner bark, and then you can crush it up a little, mix it with a little bit of water if you want to, and then you can place it in particular over stings and over when you've been stung by a caterpillar, a hairy caterpillar, or bitten by something. You can put it onto your skin and it'll reduce swelling as a natural antihistamine. But quite interesting, this tree. Like I said, rather insignificant, apart from the fact that it has been used as a scratching post by an elephant at some point. Here's some mud all the way up to about here. Elephant has rubbed off his mud. Looking for some hair. Let's see if that is the hair of an... Yes, we got hair of an elephant. There you go. Unmistakably the hair from an elephant. Where that hair comes from on the elephant's probably a youngster. Let me see, it's forehead maybe of a young elephant. Where else? Its tail? No, its tail wouldn't stretch up this far. I don't know where this came from. So young elephant, some hair. Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing a bit of your day with us. Sorry I hurt you. You just rub it. Now, I mean, that sand that I'm putting on there does nothing. I'm just hoping that it dries it up a little bit faster. But when traditional healers collect from trees, so when they collect bark from a tree or where they collect roots from a tree, they will always do so on the eastern side. In this particular case, the eastern side is right here. So they'll collect on the eastern side of the tree, and only on the eastern side of the tree. They'll only dig over here on the eastern side of the tree, and they'll dig out for roots, and then they leave it alone after that. And why they do that? They do that because by digging just on the eastern side creates a moat, a hole that'll fill up with detritus and become a compost to heal the wound that they caused the tree. And it also acts as a signpost. So if I've collected on the eastern side of the tree, it's a signpost to all other traditional healers that this tree has been harvested from. Please let it repair itself. It's sort of sustainable utilization or sustainable farming practice. So always a good idea, and it pays respect to the traditions out here. collect from the eastern side of a tree only if it's already been collected, or if bark has already been harvested or wood has already been harvested. Don't do it. Leave the tree to recover and give it some time to repair. Go find one that hasn't. Right, quite nice, hey? We're going to carry on with our march back up onto quarantine, and we'll send you over to those lions with Brent.
So it sounds like there's actually some elephants heading towards where the lions are sleeping. They pop their heads up. Wait, listen carefully. You can just hear some branches breaking. And I was incorrect. I'm just going to move a little bit. And it is the male lion with the hole in his face. He just looked a little bit more blonde this morning. Let's just get around to where we can see him and have a look at that wound. It looks a bit better. The swelling looks to have gone down quite a bit. We can have a look through that little gap there. You can see the swelling's gone down. What's he got in there now? A stick? No, it's just drying skin. There is a stick in there. From scratching, I'm sure. But the swelling does look a lot better than it was. And you can see he's not pouring at it as much. Snoozy. I can't see which lioness he's sticking closest to at the moment, so I'm going to move around again a little bit. Could be the amber-eyed female, could be the youngest lioness. Looks like amber. They're all looking particularly well fed. It definitely looks like that wound is getting a bit better. That swelling that was almost keeping his eye closed earlier has gone down. And it's not unusual for lions to have dirts and sticks and bits of things in a wound. They do scratch it and rub it. Oh, we can hear those elephants coming closer. Hi, Jono. Jono is wondering whether lions can see in colour. They cannot, Jono. They see in various shades of grey. Oh, I wonder if those ellies are going to chase the lions. If they happen to stumble upon them, they might. So there's the rest of the pride all in a nice little bundle at the back there. Where are you going under the branch? Stepping on cubs as you go. Oh! Cub coming over, being disturbed by the lioness lying down. Now it's incredible the trials and tribulations of the Nkuhuma pride, just in the short time that I've been lucky enough to follow them. They lost 3 adult lionesses to these very Birmingham boys they now consort with during the pride takeover. The Matimbas left. The Birminghams established themselves as the dominant male coalition in the north. And then 8 wonderful cubs born to this coalition. Definitely looks like they caught something last night, but what? We don't know. Emma's wondering, is there any conflict between leopards and lions? Most definitely. If given the opportunity, a lion will kill a leopard, and vice versa, although the leopards, being much smaller, generally are only able to kill lion cubs when they have been left alone while the adults are out hunting. I can hear those ellies feeding, getting a bit closer. We can't see them yet. Apparently the elephants can be seen from the dam cam. And while these lions are snoozing, hopefully Thandi's up to a little bit more.
Well, her eyes are open, which is about as much as Thandi's up to at the moment. But she did call once again in a very sort of unenthusiastic kind of way. Wow, she's looking right at us. Sorry, girl, I didn't mean to describe your performance as lackluster. Oh, there we go. Back to sleep again. So she's making a sort of a soft croaking sound. I don't know, that wasn't perhaps the best impression I've ever done of a leopard calling her cubs. But she's doing it really, really softly, and it's also quite windy this morning. So I'm not entirely sure how she expects her cubs to hear her, or if they are hearing her, how on earth they're managing to hear her, and if they're calling back in response, if maybe she's just checking in with them. And then once she knows they're safe, then she goes back to sleep again. It is interesting behavior, though, because it is almost like she can't be bothered to get up and call them. Look, she is incredibly full. Her body's working unbelievably hard right now to digest that amount of food. And this is not a full that you and I would experience if perhaps we overindulged at a nice lunch or perhaps a holiday meal. This is seriously full. She has gorged herself. And she's now packed on a good few extra kilograms of weight. And her body is working unbelievably hard to deal with it and to process it all. She does look as though she's resting on that stick, though. I kind of can see it now. The stick poking up underneath her armpit seems to be holding her in place, almost like she's found a spot to anchor herself. Well, she better be careful. Let's go to the lions, see what they're doing.
Okay, so the elephants have just stepped into view, and it looks like they can smell the lions. The cubs have started standing up, and the elephants are just behind that bush there. You can just see the movement. Now, if they spot the lions, there's a good chance that they're going to chase them, even though they don't pose too much of a threat to the elephants. Elephants just really don't like predators. Now, some of the cubs have obviously been chased by elephants before and are sneaking off already. Oh, there they are. Oh, there's a tiny little baby elephant, so I don't think the lions, or the elephants know the lions are there, but the lions are not wasting their time getting out of here before they get chased. So there you can see the elephant moving just behind those remaining lionesses. And it looks like the whole Nkuhuma pride is deciding discretion is the better part of valor. Oh, here comes a big cow Now they're all up, Birmingham boy included. The elephants look like they can smell them now. You can see there's a little bit of a rush to get out of here. Okay, let's go stick with the lions. Is that elephant cow spotted them? Let me just get into a good spot. I think she's going to chase Brian. That one. Yeah, that one. So we just... There we go. She spotted the lions. There comes the charge. The lions are actually running off. We can't see them from here. She's going to go again. Surprised she hasn't trumpeted yet. Okay, let's try get into a spot. Those lions scattered, but I think they're going to be heading behind me. Avoid the thorns. There we go. So the last place I saw the lions was running down towards the lodge. Watch your head, Brian. Okay, looks like the elephants have moved off. We've caught up with one Birmingham, one cub and one lioness. Oh, there's another cub popping up. Oh, here come all the cubs. Trying to see where the other lionesses are. And I think the lions are going to lie down. They're still going to be here in the afternoon. They're going to sleep in this area. Hopefully they don't get harassed by too many elephants today. But from the killer bees, it's been wonderful. And the thumb with his eye patch, because Brian hurt his eye. So as a lot of you might have figured out, Brian's thumb is an extension of his personality a lot of the days. So here we go, he's got a sore eye, so he's got an eye patch today. But from us, goodbye, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Enjoy Thandi with Jamie for the last few moments of show.
Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time on our sunrise safari, and no sign of Thandi's cubs just yet. But the fact that she's still calling gives us high hopes for future sightings with them, and we'll just have to play the patience game a little bit longer. At some point, I'm going to have a chance to see them. It has to happen. Well, it's time for us to do our goodbyes and our thank yous, so a big thank you to Wiem for all of his fantastic camera work, as always, as well as spotting those baby bronze-winged horses, to Kirsty and to Jerry in Final Control, and most importantly, a very big thank you to all of you watching across the globe. I hope you had a marvelous sunrise safari. We're going to finish off with one last view of beautiful Thandi. Wherever you happen to be in the world, have a fantastic day, and we'll catch up with you soon.